Hello, everybody. It's Mike Williams here from GainingEdge, Senior Consultant for GainingEdge. I've got two very legendary guests with me today to talk about the MICE dynamics in a post-pandemic world. So I'd like to welcome Leonie Ashford, who's the Business Events Manager for Tourism New Zealand. Give us a wave, Leonie. And Noor Ahmad, who's the Chief Operating Officer for Malaysian Convention Exhibition Bureau. I think you all know him from his past position with ICA and spent a lot of time in China over time. So welcome, Noor. And thank you both for joining us today on this discussion. So we're going to kick off talking about the market, what's going on in the marketplace, and we're going to I'll stop sharing just for a second, just so I can get some discussion points going. But let's just kick off and say, look, one of the things we want to talk about today is what kind of lessons, what kind of things we're witnessing in the marketplace in terms of trends and changes to the market post-pandemic, and how each destination or each region is dealing with these changes. Now that China's coming out of the pandemic and it's opening up to the rest of the world, I think there might be a few things that Leonie and Noor could share with us today about their own experience over the last 12 months or so since their destinations open up to the world, and they're starting to see a bit of pent-up demand taking place. So let's kick off with our first question to this illustrious panel and say, well, you know, the COVID restrictions are lifted. We're seeing things gradually getting back to normal, but it's obviously throwing up a lot of challenges in the marketplace. So I'll start off with Leonie. I mean, what are the biggest challenges you're facing in the market at the moment, now that we're back to, or moving back to normal?
Moving back to normal, yes. Thanks, Mike.
We haven't quite got there yet, but it's on its way, from what I can tell.
No, I think for us, with certainly over 12 months experience of this, was managing how quickly things changed. Once things opened up, it moved quite quickly. Well, actually very quickly for us. All the research and all of our insights showed that, you know, we would expect to have more concerns about some of the international COVID considerations, some of the restrictions, some of the mask wearing, some of the distancing. That ceased very quickly in our environment, and we found that with you know, people visiting New Zealand from all over the world, and particularly in our corporates, our incentive groups, etc. So how quickly it changed, and the real surge in demand from people who were actually keen to get out there and meet face to face. So for us, that was really evident, and also probably the challenge which everybody will talk about is the labour market, having people to service it, having, you know, the experience there. We all know that none of us know where everybody went, but we're not able to meet the expectations from time to time. That is getting better, but initially that was huge because of the huge demand and how quickly it happened for us.
So you're seeing big challenges with the labour market in New Zealand at the moment? Is it still there?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
But it's now what? When did New Zealand open up? 12 months ago, right?
So we've been open 12 months ago, gradually for different markets. Probably about June was open fully, but once we opened, the demand was huge. Yeah,
pent-up demand is hitting hard. Yeah, Noor, you had the same experience. I know Malaysia's been doing a very successful campaign during COVID to encourage domestic MICE business, and had quite a few good initiatives there. When did you guys kind of open up to the to the international marketplace, and what's your experience been like?
Thank you, Mike, for having me together with Leonie, a good friend from New Zealand. I think I echo a lot of things that she has said. You know, things are sort of like chaotic, and you know, we actually doesn't know when we're going to open or how things are going to happen with the COVID-19. You know, in the early 2020s, end of 2020s. For Malaysia, 1st of April, a few weeks from now, it will mark our 1-year anniversary of reopening our international borders. But domestically, we have started allowing all business event activities, face-to-face meetings as early as November in 2021. Therefore, we have sort of like a lead time to organize events, minus the international participation. So we have quite a number of international congresses being held in the country using the hybrid format, whereby only physical attendees by local delegates and international coming in online. But come 1st of April, the government have lifted all the restrictions for the ease of travel and for safety. And of course, we still have that safety distancing, and people are still wearing masks in closed areas, so forth. But I think when I said chaotic earlier on, is that I think I think no one foresee when business is going to start. So eventually, demand really push us, with all sorts of challenges that many destinations, including Malaysia, has to face, from short of staff, quality of staff in the service sector, and also how do we get back those that has left the industry. So this is going to be the prevailing challenges moving forward. And I think with the opening of China, which is the biggest market for Malaysia, and I'm sure a lot of other countries in Asia as well, I think it will pose a double question to us: how can we be able to accommodate and provide the services as best as we could for this market segment?
I've heard a lot of amazing stories about hotels and venues that are they're very well short of staff, and they're actually saying no to business because they just don't have the capacity to host those events because they don't have the staff on board. Are you seeing that? Is that taking place in Auckland, in New Zealand, across New Zealand, Christchurch? Leonie, are you seeing that happen?
Yes, across New Zealand, we'll certainly have properties that may be only opening up 70% of their capacity.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what they have. That's what they know they can deliver the service. I think that's the key thing. You have to be able to deliver the service, and that's why people are just not opening up all of their rooms.
Yeah, and the same in Malaysia, Noor?
Slightly different, I think. I have to admit that we have challenges with the manpower at the earlier stage. But I think because we have a bigger population compared to New Zealand, perhaps, I think we are able to accommodate quickly. But again, the next challenge is that how do we retrain those staff that has been laid off or has been out of work for almost a year, and taking in new people to ensure that we can provide the best quality of service as before, if not better than before 2019. So I think, but coming today, a lot of key venues in Malaysia are reporting that they are almost going back to 2019 in terms of business. And in terms of staff, they have really been able to employ all the numbers so that they can actually have a full-fledged service and use as much space in their facilities as well.
Yeah, one of the challenges has been that people have actually left the industry, but some have left permanently, right? So you're actually recruiting new people and having to train new people. Right. And that's right across the hospitality industry. I've seen that in restaurants, I've seen it in venues and hotels. It's across the board, and that's a huge challenge for the industry. Is the industry addressing that? Is it able to cope with that significant change? Are there things being put in place to train people and bring them on board?
Speaking for us, of course, we can't stop people leaving the industry, because I think during the pandemic, it's all about survival. A lot of smaller companies in the business event community are not able to sustain their staff, so they have to leave. They have to find a way to survive. But some of them return back to the industry. Some eventually has left permanently and go into new businesses. There's a lot of gig economy that crop up during the pandemic as well. But having said that, what we do in Malaysia is that since 2021, we are fortunate to have special budget from our Ministry of Finance to roll out a few initiatives, including what we call the 3R, to provide retraining and training programs, certification program for our industry players. So for those who are still there, we need to upskill them. And for those the new ones that come in, we need to provide new introduction courses for them to quickly to not only accommodate to the local demand, but also the international events that are coming to our show.
So the next challenge is actually going to be to keep people in the industry, because if another global crisis takes place, and it could happen any place, any time. I mean, making sure we keep people in the industry, because it's had a fairly devastating blow on the industry. So that's something that we all need to be thinking about, is the future of the industry and make it more sustainable, right? Yeah. Can we dig a little bit deeper and talk about specific challenges that relate to different market segments? Are you seeing differences in the way association conferences are being organised, how they're dealing with destinations, the corporate meetings, the incentive market and the exhibition marketplace? Are you seeing any differences or changes that are specific to those sectors? I'll give an example. One of the things we picked up in the surveys is that the rotational patterns for associations is gone out the window at the moment, because they're catching up on the virtual events they've been running and postponements and cancellations. So the whole rotation pattern, and they're also looking at destinations that are fully open and can easily be chosen for a conference. Are you seeing that change at all with the association sector, for instance?
So shall I answer that? I'll just
go for it. Yep.
pitch
Yeah.
in
Go ahead,
there.
ladies first.
So certainly with associations, one thing that we are seeing, they are, very cost conscious these days.
Yep.
And, with that, really looking at the airlines and the costs there, looking at the accommodation and the costs. So what might have been a 4-star hotel we are now looking at 3-star hotels or similar. And for, also looking at that closer proximity to venues as well. To
save logistic costs, is it?
Yeah, looking at those logistic costs. So costs are really important to the associations. When it comes to, say, the corporate and incentive travel to New Zealand, sustainability is a big issue. And we're also, we as in New Zealand, we focus on destinations coming to New Zealand who have direct air services, because we know that that's really important. So we're looking at those non-stop services, particularly for us, that works well out of parts of Asia and obviously out of China. I think all segments, all of the associations, corporate or incentives, are all really focused a lot more on understanding their delegates and the health and well-being of the delegates. So
Yep.
that's about what's in the program. That's about, any add-ons. That's about making it more meaningful.
Yep.
We thought there was a lot of talk about that during the pandemic, and now people want to put it into action.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Thanks,
yeah.
Leonie. I just want to go back to, you mentioned something about direct air services. We did a bit of surveying last year with end of last year about the incentive corporate marketplace. And one of the things they're finding is that they have to actually choose destinations. They have to actually lock in the flights first before they even consider the destination. They have to find a place that's got direct air services. They lock in the flights before they can look at accommodation or the other components, because there's so much capacity constraint on flights at the moment that if you can't get the airfares, you can't actually run the rest of the program. So direct air services and frequency and capacity is probably one of the number one key issues facing us at the moment in this slow supply-demand challenge that we have, right? And I think New Zealand is a destination that's feeling the pinch, because I understand Air New Zealand was like 65% of capacity. I don't know whether that's still the case, but that was the situation at one stage, right?
Yeah, certainly our national carrier, down on the capacity, but we are seeing a lot more engagement. Certainly the airlines out of Asia are, upping their flights into both the North and the South Island of New Zealand, and also North America, where, we're predicting a much stronger growth in those areas than we certainly had pre-pandemic. So, yeah. And they're all direct services, which will help.
And Malaysia, Noor, are you seeing the same sort of trends and issues?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Leonie. I think what happened in New Zealand, I think, is not much different in Malaysia or any part of the other part of the world. I think when you talk about cost of organizing an event that will attract international participation are not going to be any cheaper than before. We talk about hotel, airlines, and so forth. But that again in itself provides the opportunity for, in particular, associations or even show organizers from the exhibition side, for those who are really have the target audience, who have the highest capacity to travel, they can afford to travel. I think they will be the first one to travel. From some of the association event that we had just recently, like, for example, the Asia Pacific Ophthalmology Congress that we hosted in Kuala Lumpur just last month. The target is to have about between 3,500 to 4,000 delegates, but we ended up having about almost 4,600 delegates, not just from Asia Pacific, but from all over the world. So we see the huge demand. I do not quite like the terminology of revenge travel, because that's very tourism related. But I would say that people in the professional industry would want to meet again. And for some association in particular, this is the first time for members to come back to meet physically. So the demand is huge. And if the promotion and marketing, the content of the event being put in the right perspective, I think it will attract people, because people will find ways to travel anyway. I've spoken to some delegates who are from North America that have to make 3-4 stops before getting into Malaysia. So I think before the pandemic that people will not do that, but now people will do anything as long as I can get to an event that can benefit me. So I think as long as conferences organized by associations, or even any event for that matter, can offer and deliver the benefit to the paying delegates, I think they will find their way to travel. So I'm quite optimistic that our industry will come back very strong.
It brings a very interesting discussion point. 12 months ago, and I remember it's amazing how the dynamics changed quite dramatically. 12 months ago, the industry was really concerned about virtual and hybrid taking over the meetings industry. And since everything's opened up, it doesn't matter who you talk to, they're all saying, I cannot wait to go to the conference, or I cannot wait to meet face to face. We picked up a survey in our survey last year from corporates that their main objective for meeting is just to get their staff back together, to get back with their distributors face to face as much as possible, because virtual is fine for short, small meetings, but to get that interaction, you just cannot replicate. And so there's been one of the big surges has been corporate meetings coming back, because they want to get people back together. And one of the things that's behind that is the fact that a lot of companies now have got their staff working at home, so they don't have this collaboration taking place as much, or that face to face. So that's what we're picking up in all the surveys. Leonie, would you agree with this, or do you think that hybrid or virtual is still a major threat to the conference marketplace?
No, look, I think that it certainly had its place when we needed it for that connection. But when it comes to hybrid, people are looking at face-to-face. People really do want face-to-face. And it's also the reality of when you're running hybrid, there's huge costs involved. You're effectively running 2 events. Yeah. And event managers know that, association managers know that. And that's not what people are looking to do. They don't need to run those 2 events. So for us, yes, there might be virtual, there might be something virtual required, but hybrid is not really part of the mix that people are looking at now. It's face-to-face. And I think that for us, we had, I know your organisation talks about the hub and spoke, and we've had a really good example just recently where we hosted Women in Sport here in New Zealand, and we were able to have other smaller satellite meetings across the Pacific Islands that actually looked at, they were all part of the same Congress, and it was fantastic, and they were all in person, but they were connected. So we're starting to see more of that, definitely, but it's not hybrid. We haven't got people connecting online. Yeah,
there are some, there's some big challenges that have come up with it. There's pros and cons with hybrid for what we're picking up in the market too. The pro is that you can actually get to a much bigger audience. It also means that destinations with more restrictive direct air access and things could actually potentially run hybrid events because they can get a big audience without having people be there. So there are some pros to that for some of the smaller destinations. But the cons I think you've started presenting is, people prefer face-to-face, but the cost of it. But there's also the integrating the virtual and the on-site delegations to interact and create immersive experiences and knowledge exchange. It's quite challenging in doing that. So the tech hasn't quite come up to speed on that. Noor, what's your thoughts on that?
Firstly, I just want to take up to the other question that Leonie mentioned about, and also you asked about the question of how does corporate incentive are coming back. I think for Malaysia, we are seeing two parts or two level of activity happening. There are companies and organizations that organize corporate travel and incentive groups, which has the budget and they must travel. And most of these companies already decided where they want to go. Yep. So, like it or not, it's just a matter of how many people can travel because of the flight condition, the seats availability, visa availability, and so forth and so forth. So these are the first level that I would term as they must go. And I think there are so many companies out there, especially in corporate and incentive group, that are doing extremely well during the pandemic. We talk about pharma company, insurance company, and so forth. And the second group is the group that they are still at the planning stage. I think they still behave like before the pandemic. They have the interest, they're developing the program, they're talking to a few destinations, trying to gauge what kind of support each destination can provide and choose which one is the best for them. So I think because of the demand created by companies and organizations that have the volume, know where they want to go, I think it will be a game changer for the industry. For Malaysia, we are seeing that coming up very strong, in particular from Southeast Asia, South Asia market, especially India, and also from Middle East, coming very strong and saying that we want to bring this group. This will be in June. I have 1,500 delegates. We need your support to ease the travel, to make the logistic happen. So it's not a question of us trying to offer them the carrot to compete with another destination. And I'm sure that this same company would also choose other destinations and decided and would just make their plan and go. So I think this will be the biggest game changer. I think a lot of destinations are looking. So in a way, we are no longer competing because the client will already decided where they want to go, because the cost factor that Leonie mentioned earlier on is so expensive that basically client can already estimate what would be their cost if they choose a destination A, B, or C.
Yeah, I've heard cost mentioned a few times. Leonie, you've mentioned a few times. Noor, you've brought it up. Again, some of the survey work we've done is just saying corporates know that there is they're facing massive increases, particularly in airfares and accommodation, are two big components that they're facing. Are you seeing it as a deterrent particularly for longer haul destinations? Are you seeing it as a challenge for you in the market at the moment to be competitive in the market on cost and ground cost? And one of the things I did notice also is that some corporates are saying, or incentive programs are saying, they're doing less on the ground because of the cost of airfares and accommodation. Are you seeing any evidence of that taking place?
Yeah, I think certainly with the corporates and incentives, they're very aware, absolutely, of those high costs. And yes, some of the programs that they put together, there might not be that same length of stay, etc., or they're actually going more into tier levels, and that's really important. Who they're, who in their teams they're recognizing and at what level they recognize them. So it moves to smaller.
Oh, Leonie, we've lost you.
Groups, and then it's okay. So
we got you back.
I guess where did we get to? It was
you just saying they're breaking down into smaller groups.
Yeah, talking about in the tiers. Yeah. Breaking into smaller groups and into the tiers. Sorry about my internet. I apologize for that. And I guess that Yeah, that's what, sorry, I've been put off by my internet there. So we are seeing the changes where there's that focus on the money, but it's breaking them into groups.
Yeah, I mean, tiering is not unusual for incentives, but there seems to be a lot more tiering taking place. And part of it is cost, but the other thing is direct air services. Because of restrictions on air services, they haven't been able to get large groups in all at once. Noor, have you seen any of that taking place where they're breaking groups up into more tiers?
Yes, I think yeah, I think that's what we are seeing here in Malaysia as well. But I think fortunately the destination as far as Malaysia is concerned, we are more affordable compared to other neighboring countries because our currency. I think that might make it a bit more appealing because the flying cost is still expensive because of the flight demand from any airline that you're taking. But I think once you're on ground, in particular in Malaysia, you can enjoy a 5-star hotel at the rate of a 3-star hotel in some other more expensive destination. I think that would be the big advantage for our clients. But I think just now when we were talking, Leonie got stuck for a while and frozen. The screen was frozen. I think that's a good example why I think the demand for the face-to-face meeting is so huge, because I think for over more than a year and a half, people got locked down. And I think in particular for our audience in China, they got locked down even more than any countries in the world. So I think everybody had that urge to not see the screen anymore like what we are doing today. They want to go on the real trade shows. They want to meet people. They want to hug again. And I think I'm saying this not only in Malaysia, but from my recent travel to a lot of countries, I can see that, yeah, people meet, people observe the safety regulation, they shake hand and they hug, but after that, they will just clean the hand and use the sanitizer. So I think people are conscious about being healthy and safe, but at the same time, the need and desire to have events in person is tremendous. I think that will create a demand for the next 1 to 2 years. Definitely, it will be a big boost to the business event industry.
One of the discussion points in the industry at the moment, particularly amongst DMOs and convention bureaus, is there's still a little bit of competition to get people to come to a destination, particularly for longer haul destinations, and to try and enhance the visitor experience when they come and attend conferences. How are destinations addressing that to create a better immersive experience in the destination? Are you seeing any evidence of how you're approaching that, or are you approaching it, or is it still something that we need to think about and deal with? Leonie?
I guess when it comes to enhancing that experience, we certainly make them, we make a point of working with event planners and organisers and program planners to understand them, to actually know what they're looking for, and to offer more immersion into our culture, more perhaps social impact, legacy, the corporate social responsibility initiatives. We really do focus on ensuring that those are predominant in the programs for them, because they are looking for that, and they're looking to we've got things that we do here in New Zealand. We've got an initiative called Tiaki, which is care for our country, care for our people, and care for our place. And that is very important. And someone will experience that from travelling on the national airline to staying in the hotels right across the country to the activities and destinations they're part of. And so we have the luxury of being a team of 5 million people across New Zealand who are embracing this and understanding what that means. So it's part of the program, and it's part of what people will do here. We've also got sustainability initiatives, something like trees that count, planting native trees and things. Those sort of things are important to people. Then they do make a difference for a destination. I guess that's a couple of examples for us.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Leonie. Noor?
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, for us as the DMO, we've been thinking about this quite a lot during the pandemic. I think there's no travel. So, you do a lot of planning and strategy. And one of the change of mindset that we have at our DMO is that we are not differentiating too much whether it is a local or international delegate anymore. In the past, of course, our main thrust is to bring the international delegate. But at the end of the day, if the delegate, whether it's a local or international, they are spending, they are just like any other delegate. So having said that, to your question of how do we treat and assist long-haul travelers, I think that would be the same to any traveler that going to attend business event activities in Malaysia. We are fortunate that we have come up with a campaign called Meet in Malaysia in the midst of and because of the pandemic. Basically, that program is not only to support our event organizers, local societies and associations, as well as international associations in terms of non-monetary and monetary support, but to ensure that the community, the professional community, are able to meet and discuss a subject of their common interest. More so, what we felt more important is not just to work with our stakeholders in the industry, but we also gone beyond to work with the government agencies in Malaysia. For example, we have a business event special lane in all international airport in Malaysia for any business travelers coming to Malaysia. So they will not be able to queue anymore. They can just walk up to the lane and then get through easily. I think the key questions that we see from the pandemic, in particular, some leading destination in the Middle East, as you know, some of them hosted the World Expo during the pandemic. We are basically learning from them how they're able to come up with all these arrangement and logistic to ensure that people are able to travel. I think post-pandemic, travelers would expect that you do not have to go through any hassle, because any country that has these restrictions and conditions and regulations, you have to queue here and there, immediately you will lose. It's not rocket science. People will get information from the social media, and I think the promotion and advertising by DMO will change forever, because the consumer and also the trade market or the clients that we work with in the business event industry, we do not need to educate them anymore. They will get the information and they will decide which destination I go, because I know that this destination can provide me the ease of travel and can provide me risk management while I'm having my event in your destinations. So I think those destinations that has the infrastructure and the change of mindset to provide the services to your clients, whether local or international, both are equally important for us, I think will excel.
You just raised something in my mind, is is there a changing role for a convention bureau in helping adapt to this new world and attracting business? Do you see yourselves playing a more consulting role of some sort, or some sort of matchmaking role, or trying to be more involved in the end product? What's your thoughts, Leonie, on bureaus' roles now, convention bureaus' roles? Have they changed?
Yeah, look, I think they have. I think what destinations, what bureaus have to be able to do is actually work with the event planners, the program planners, to actually determine why they would host their event at your destination. It's not about, these are the hotel rooms, these are the venues or the capabilities, etc. These are all, that's just a must. That's what you have to have, but you have to think about those additional benefits. You have to think about the sector and the industry that your client is working in, and you have to connect them. I think that sort of connection, and Noor just spoke to that, is really, really important. And I think it's that connection back to the communities that the host community, the city or the region that the group is visiting. I think people want to feel that as well. So you've got to have all of the infrastructure, you've got to be able to service it, etc. But you have to understand your client, because there's choice out there, and if you work with the client so that you're offering their attendees that additional benefit, that meaningful experience, whether it, it's part of the program or it's an add-on to the program, then that's what helps us to win.
Yeah. Noor, I think you nodded a couple of times. I'm assuming you agree, but you may have more to add there too.
Yeah, and I think for us, the big shift for the role of a DMO would be very much on the facilitation of the actual group that is coming. That really keep us occupied these days. For example, for our listeners in China in particular, for them, they come to Malaysia, they need to apply for visa. And now one of our role is to assist them in visa application. I was mentioning earlier on about the Asia Pacific Ophthalmology Congress. The Secretary General of the association happened to be a Chinese passport holder from mainland China, but he was traveling at that point in time, and he was in Australia traveling to Malaysia. And normal procedure for him to apply for visa, it will be very complicated and take a long time. But with the intervention of us as a DMO, we're able to get his visa within a day. So I think planning for travel now is a bit chaotic, because you're not going to be at home applying for your visa for your next travel, but you have multiple travel that you have to do, especially in the business event industry. I think I also like to go back to what Leonie mentioned, because I do not want to be sounded like Malaysia, we are only interested in the business part of the business event itself or the transaction. What we are very focused now as a DMO is to look at what kind of event that we really want to bring to the destination, whether it is for economic reason or for society development. But more importantly, we start planting seed that how we can ensure that the event that we host have a long-lasting legacy. And more importantly is how the community, when I say community, is depending on the event itself, how the community will benefit. I give you a quick example that Malaysia will host the Asia Pacific Cochlear Implant in 2025, even though it's 2 years from now, but we already start working with the local national society and also the regional society on how we can reach out and help those who have a hearing impact. So what can we do? What kind of contribution that we can give back? How can we include in the program? How can we get the government to change better policy for that particular community? So I think that is very important, because Malaysia, we strive to be a smart destination for business event. And I think before the pandemic, I think I would say that very much like any other destination, any business will do. But I think post-pandemic, we need to really look at what kind of event that we want, that we'll be able to support, and what kind of event that we really want to partner and grow with. So I think partnership, collaboration with events, be it association, conference, exhibitions, or even for corporate travel and incentive travel, that will be our key focus area in our strategic direction to 2030.
Great feedback there. No, thank you. I want to go back to something we talked about a bit earlier. I think, Leonie, you've mentioned a few times this word sustainability. And I want to relate that to the decision-making processes that take place in bringing a conference to a destination. Is sustainability a deciding factor, or is it just a nice to have? I would have said before the pandemic, it was talked about a lot, and it was a nice to have. But I've heard rumblings that it's no longer a nice to have. It's something that will actually get you over the line in winning a piece of business. How important is sustainability as a criteria for choosing a destination?
Yes, it's something that comes up all the time. Absolutely, it is important. And for us, the way that we present our credentials as a sustainable destination, as a sustainable business events destination, ensuring that the venues, the accommodation, the activities all have those green credentials, as it were, and do actually deliver on it. That's really important. New Zealand has set some net zero carbon initiatives in place, well, targets in place, and also as part of the business events where all of our all of our venues, activities and hotels, etc., are working on the initiatives, plus the CSR initiatives are in place. So our role as a destination management organisation is really to communicate those at this stage, to ensure that people are well aware that when they are in New Zealand, when they visit New Zealand, that there are those options available, and it makes a difference to the selection and the choice.
The challenge with longer haul destinations is the carbon footprint. How are we dealing with carbon footprints these days?
Look, that's a challenging question. Thanks, Mike.
I've got the same problem here in Australia, and Malaysia, to a degree, has got the same challenge with some of the longer haul destinations.
And you know, for us, it is about, we are really just communicating about the experience you'll have when you're here. I mean, obviously, we've got an airline which is committed to various initiatives in terms of sustainability, etc. But for us, it's a real focus on the experience when you are here in New Zealand at the moment.
Okay, over to you, Noor. What's your thoughts?
Well,
are you actually seeing sustainability being written into bid criteria, bid tender documents?
Yes, we do. But I would not be able to say whether that's the main criteria or not. But I guess I think generally all over the world, sustainability has been a big buzzword. I think the way we look at it as a DMO, we saw that our ecosystem, be it suppliers, hotel, the venues, most of them, even before the pandemic, has some degree of sustainability practices in place. So they're committed to the UN SDGs and have really implemented a lot of things. So I think that is well and good from the supplier side or the ecosystem side. But what more important is for the DMO, not just to shout about saying that our destination is sustainable destination, or we subscribe to the sustainability, but more importantly is how we actually walk the talk. So I think for Malaysia, we are doing a few things. Number one, we are already injecting all the ESGs and UN SDGs practices into our daily activities. So in MyCEB, for example, I call it to all our staff in the organization and also in our board of directors that in whatever we do, we must have sustainability in mind. So I think that is a very small concept, but it will take you a long way. Having said that, moving forward, what we are doing is we're going to launch a training program for all our industry players, hopefully at no cost, for them to understand and to be accredited to the UN SDG. So UN SDG have the 17 goals, so they need to choose and prescribe that specific goal that they can achieve. Because when we talk about sustainability, is a big thing. We're not just looking at how you calculate an event from carbon zero point of view, but how you can overall have include the best practices in your organization, in your processes, and so forth. For example, for MyCEB, if we were to subgrant an event, we have already put into the criteria what are the sustainability practices that the event will include. And if they don't have this, they have to start thinking to do that, because otherwise we will not provide the support. So I think that is not only for event that we subgrant, but throughout all the processes that we have in the organization, whether we are opening a tender, a contract, working with our partners, it has to be on the same wavelength. But I think the challenge now is that for association in particular, they are not using sustainability as the yardstick when they choose a destination, unless it is really it's a green meeting, or a COP meeting or like. The rest of the conferences that we see have placed sustainability not significantly. I think post-pandemic people are very concerned about the number of delegates. Can you meet your targets? Can you get your bottom line? Can you profit, so that you don't make loss, from the events? I think that's the biggest challenge at the moment. Yeah. So I think we all have to work together in this. because sustainability is not about just one destination, it's about the whole community around the world.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that faces, especially DMOs, is onboarding your industry to get on board the sustainability boat, because it potentially is a cost factor for them, or if they're always thinking about how to do their business in a practical sense. But are you finding it difficult to onboard the industry, to get them on board on this boat of sustainability, to support you in attracting business and moving forward, Leonie?
No, we're not.
That's good.
It's
That's right.
we don't have.
You guys are kind of market leaders in this space, so I expected that answer.
No, I made a note of Noor, a training program at no cost. I was thinking, great. Perhaps I could come on your training program, Noor. But
you're most welcome.
I guess for us, right across New Zealand and the various cities and regions, that there are live documents, their destination management plans, which certainly they looked at this and thought about this pre-COVID, and the COVID time gave us the chance to develop them. And with the destination management plans, and they're different for each destination, but really they are looking at having a well-managed, sustainable destination for visitors. And it's just an ongoing process. Now, the I don't know how to say this subtly, but some of the destination management plans don't reflect what you would think is a smart money-making plan. They just don't. But that is what their community, that is what their engagement with their communities in looking after their environment, looking after their culture, this is what they've identified. And this is what we as the national DMO need to work with them to respect, because it's not, they've come up with that. So sustainability is a very strong part of each of these destination management plans in different ways. And we've got them for cities and regions right across the country. Great,
great. Moving on from sustainability, I want to focus a little bit on diversity, equity and equality and inclusion. That's also a big topic, global topic, not just in the mice industry, but globally. But I'm not sure I've seen much actually going on within the industry to address that. Are you making moves towards this within the workplace in New Zealand and Malaysia? And are you seeing it as an important thing coming through, a trend that's actually having some impact on the industry, something we need to address? Noor?
Okay, I'll go first this time around. I think in terms of DEI, of course, it's a big thing all over the world, including in Malaysia. There's a lot of movement towards that. And I think even the current Malaysian government are very concerned about the DEI, the concept, and how we can be very inclusive, in particular to all the different races and different groups when we do our economic activity, including business event. But to me, I think DEI, if I were to compare with sustainability, doesn't score that really high on for any client to choose for a destination, because I think it is very still limited to the activity that they do. So, for example, like if we have a congress coming to Malaysia, so that particular organizer would very much focus into the aspect of a DEI India event, but they would not be overly concerned about how the destination actually perceive or being ranked in the diversity, equity, and also inclusivity. So I think it's not a major concern, but it's nice to have. And I think Malaysia, as a diverse country with different races living here together in harmony, I think that could be a plus point for us. But again, I reiterate, it's not really the big mandatory thing.
Leonie?
Yeah, no, I guess for us it's the same. DEI is part of what's expected in terms of the, for organisations and corporate culture right across New Zealand. It's we should all have policies or similar in place, and we should all practice this. And so it's part of what we do, but I don't have a sense that it's part of a decision making in terms of, you know, an incentive or a corporate or an association conference coming to New Zealand. We probably have a reputation of having some strong women in our environment, which is always helpful. But it's not up there in terms of we just naturally do. We have it. It's embedded in what we do.
I think I've had a chat to you before about Tourism New Zealand actually putting in place policies for DEI, right? So it's your own. So that's the other side of it. Is just the industry itself moving in that direction. So even though it's not something that's in a big criteria, it's something that the industry is moving towards, right?
It's there, and it would be there in all of our organisational policies right across our industry. It's definitely.
Yeah. Okay, listen, we're kind of running out of time, and there's a lot more I could talk about on all these subjects because there's so much to talk about where we're all moving forward. But I wanted to sort of finish and getting a few tips from the two legends of the industry. If you were talking to your friends in China at the moment and trying to share your experience over the last 12 months, what would you be recommending they do to think about accommodating the new era of MyCEB business? What do they need to be thinking about? What are the priorities in attracting business to China? Noor, do you want to have a go at that?
Okay, I think we in Malaysia are very fortunate that when China opened their international doors, we already had a few of our cabinet ministers visiting China. Not only from the government to government, but also they have traveled to some of the provinces. And Malaysia and China enjoys long traditions of bilateral trade. And for example, like the Malaysia-China Business Chambers have really been working on a lot of projects. What we are seeing is that we have more and more interest from China, not only from the investment side, from the leisure travel side, but also from the business event, in particular the exhibition sector. We saw quite a lot of interest. Just recently, we hosted a WOFI Asia Pacific Conference in Malaysia. Quite a number of show organizers from the various parts of China thinking about moving some of the show outside China, and Malaysia is one of the preferred destinations because of the policy that we have and the partnership that we are inculcating with them. So for friends in China, we certainly welcome you. And I think for the other segment of the market, for example, the corporate and incentive travel, I think, like I said earlier on, they pretty much decided where they need to go already. But you know, if their travel comes to knock on Malaysian door, MyCEB, we will do our best to accommodate and facilitate their travel to ensure that they have the best of their travel experience. And for the rest of the participants who are attending the ITCM in Shanghai, we hope to be able to meet you face to face, because I think we need to reunite, we need to be together again.
Good words, Noor. To me, I just wanted to also just add a little bit in there that it's all about making the experience easy. There are a lot of challenges out there at the moment with all sorts of restrictions and things taking place and changes in the marketplace. And there's a lot of hesitation going to destinations without any partnership or help to make it happen in the destination. So it's actually trying to make life easier, help navigate running an event in your destination, because every destination has different nuances and you've got to be able to deal with it. So would the key to it, Leonie, I'm asking the question, is the key to it is that you've got to work really hard to partner with your clients to make it easy, to help them navigate your destination and try and pull down whatever barriers you can to make it work, right?
Yes, look, I just made a few notes as Noor was speaking, and as Noor was speaking earlier about that ease of travel, and I admire the help that Noor and his team are obviously giving regarding visas, etc., because that is a big challenge. So we're probably not as embedded in doing it as perhaps Noor is able to be, but that is a constant request now. So it's making it easy to travel, partnering with them, absolutely understanding what their needs might be, and honesty around what you can actually deliver. You know, again, we talked at the start about those service levels, just making sure that you are actually able to deliver what you're talking about, because we all talk in this industry and it doesn't take long to get out if you're not actually delivering what you've said that you would. I think that that's really important. So, you know, safety and risk management is a big thing out there, because it's all changed quite quickly. It's come back online. But yes, look after your customers is really important.
Yeah, well said. Wise words from Leonie and Noor. I want to thank you both very much for your time today, and I'm sure you might get a few people chasing you after your celebrity status today, but I really appreciate your insights and sharing those insights for ITCM China this year, and look forward to seeing you face to face somewhere around the world in the coming weeks, days or months. So thank you very much, and back to the organisers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.